Hello my friends, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to discuss the transformation of matter. You might often hear me saying that, oh, everything is flowing. Then you may feel confused. What are you talking about? I don't feel like everything is flowing. I don't feel that way at all. Like my body is just like this, it's solid. And for example, if I hold a rock in my hand, you will see that this is something solid, this is something still, it's not flowing at all. So when I say everything is flowing, is it like a poetic expression? What does it actually mean? And what's my evidence about this? And in this episode, we are going to discuss everything you mentioned, every confusion you had on this topic. In fact, it's not just only me saying this. In ancient wisdom, like Taoism, people also suggest the same thing. They always use analogy like river and suggesting Tao is ever flowing like a river. And not only, in Hinduism, Vedanta, very often they use the analogy of ocean and waves. Ocean is ever flowing as well. Waves are also ever flowing. Nothing is static, nothing is still, everything is always in constant movement. So this is the ancient wisdom. But unfortunately, a lot of people nowadays, they consider it just as a poetic expression. It's not something, can be proven. So this is the part that we're trying to explain why actually this is not just about analogies. It's not just about poetic expression. It actually has such a solid foundation. It will transform how we explain, how we understand the world, how we understand ourselves. And let's find out why it makes sense. First of all, I'd like to invite you to ask yourself one question. All those things you consider as still, is it really because it's actually still, or is because the speed of its movement is too slow that you cannot notice? It's kind of like not in the range that you can directly sense its movement. For example, body. When you think about it, you feel like it's still, like right now this body seems like still. But if you think in the long range, you were a baby, you were like so short, just a baby, and then you grow up to become a teenager, and then you become an adult, and we will get old, unfortunately. But this is how it is, right? It's always in the process of transformation. You cannot find any point and say, okay, this point, I'm still and I'm not going to change, I'm not going to transform anymore. Like we always say, like we're trying to prevent aging, we're trying to slow down aging, but nobody will say that we are going to completely stop aging. All we do is to slow down the speed of transformation, isn't it? So transformation is the ultimate truth about everything we ever see in this world, even ourselves. Everything is in the constant transformation. So this is the example of body. And some people may say that, okay, I don't want to think about the example of a living being. I want to think about something like a dead, like matter itself. So you might just not apply the same thing, like a rock. The rock is something I don't feel is have lives, so of course it just looks still. But think about it. If we also think it in a longer range, you can consider the entire Earth is like a giant body. And the rock is constantly in transformation. It changes so slow, a lot more slower than our body's transformation speed. And think about it, even about our body, sometimes we are difficult to notice the transformation. So about Earth, it will be even more difficult to think about it. But if a rock just standing in the rain, in the wind, of course it will change the shape. It will transform into something else. It will transform its shape into some other shapes. That is something obvious, isn't it? It just most of the time we didn't notice because the transformation speed is way too slow. We cannot notice. But think about it. If you just suddenly go back to the ancient time, you will see the entire geography of this planet completely different. So we know that the transformation of this entire planet is also real. It's not imaginary, and it's not just an analogy or poetic expression. It's reality. And rethinking this question will naturally lead us to our deep reflection. When we suggest that something is still, is it just because it's out of our range to notice or to directly sense, to see the transformation by our eyes or by our ears? Like when we hear melody, we know it's constantly changing because it's within the range of our ear can hear the transformation. And when we see, for example, the river flowing, we say, yeah, that's definitely something flowing. That's because it's within the range of our eyes can capture the motion. But sometimes when some relational structures is out of the range of our direct or indirect senses, then we feel like it's still. So that is the thing, as in last episodes we mentioned at the end, that this is why we have to be humble. We know that, we have to know that we have our limitation of our direct senses or even our indirect senses. So we're still on a long journey to discover all different types of relational structures. But we got to know that a lot of relational structures is just out of our range to directly sense their transformations, but doesn't mean that they are still. So you see, it's very easy to understand. So far, we only use very, very simple analogies and very simple logic and rationality. We can directly get to the conclusion that stillness, absolute stillness, is an illusion, but the movement and transformation is the reality of the whole existence. And it's not difficult to understand this. However, it's not like only by philosophy or just by the way we're analyzing it works, and in science it tells otherwise. It's not like that. Actually, science and philosophy, they never conflict each other. They complete each other and they resonate with each other. Now, let's try to understand it through the lens of science. Well, if we look more deeply at nature, we discover an important fact. Almost everything that appears stable actually depends on continuous motion. In other words, manifestation does not come from stillness, but from movement. Existence does not come before relationships. Rather, relationships in motion give rise to existence. From the perspective of modern science, especially physics, the idea that everything is changing and everything is flowing is not just poetic. It is supported by countless experiments and scientific evidence. In modern physics, there is no such thing completely still or forever unchanging. What we call stability is only relative stability. First, at the atom level, nothing is truly at rest. Our rock, our table, and even our bodies are all made of so-called atoms. And of course, the name itself is just for conveniency, not the essence. And atoms are always in motion. Electrons do not stay in fixed positions but exist as quantum states. Inside the atom nucleus, quarks are constantly interacting through gluons. So, even a rock that seems perfectly still has never truly stopped moving at the microscopic level. Furthermore, even near absolute zero, motion never completely disappears. According to the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, in quantum mechanics, particles always have zero-point motion. In other words, there are no perfectly motionless particles in the universe. Modern physics therefore reveals a profound truth. Stability is stability within motion, and existence is existence within change. And now, let's discuss a fascinating question. I really think it's fascinating. is that why some relational structure can appear so stable, right? Because we know something is ever flowing like a river. That's visibly we can see it's flowing, it's ever changing. But how could some relational structure can be so stable for so long time, like rocks or like this land we stand on, or even our body? It's relatively a lot more stable than something constantly changing that we can visibly see it. So how could this happen? It sounds like a miracle. And honestly speaking, before I was always fascinated about this question. So let's explore it. First of all, think about it. If there is no stable relational structures, then all the things that we experience, all the existence wouldn't appear. Because it's constantly changing, then it will not have form. It will not have stable form or stable shape, like the star, the sun, the planet, or even our body. So the only reason why we get to experience this miracle of life and all the existence is because there are some relational structures that can stay as very stable shape or stable form. So that's why it's fascinating. And now let's discuss why they can be like this. And to solve this mystery, I'm going to use the analogy of vortex in the ocean. Like I before always mentioned the analogy of ocean and waves, that's also fine. But I think the analogy of vortex is more fit for this situation. Because when you think about vortex, it's fascinating because it seems like it has its own shape. It seems like a fixed thing. Like visually when you see it, you will point to that thing and say, look, there is a vortex. But when you think deeper, is there differences of the water that form this vortex to the water, not involved in this vortex? There's no differences. The essence is the same. It's just the ever-flowing movement. But however, because the relational structure there, it forms a shape of vortex, then we point at it and say, look, there is a thing. And this is exactly how we understand matter as a solid thing. We point at something is fundamentally relational and fundamentally is not substance and we think is a solid substance. This is how we understand. But think about it. This vortex is fundamentally depends on the relationship. If the relationship changes a little bit, the vortex will also change its shape. If the relational just dissolve or it's not enough to reach the threshold for the manifestation within the range of your sensibility, then you wouldn't sense the vortex anymore. So everything depends on the relationship, depends on the itself, this relational structure within this vortex, and also depends on the relationship between you and the vortex. Everything depends on the relationship. So there is no such thing as, look, there is a solid vortex there. There were never such thing. It's an illusion. And interestingly, modern science is revealing that many things in the universe are more like vortex than solid objects. In the past, people thought atoms were tiny hard balls, the basic building blocks of the world. But modern physics shows that an atom is mostly empty space, and electrons do not orbit the nucleus like planets around the sun. Instead, an atom is a stable pattern maintained by continuous interactions. If those interactions stopped, the atom itself would no longer exist. In this sense, an atom is more like our vortex in the microscopic world than a permanent object. So now, let's ask ourselves sincerely one question. When we say something looks solid or still, is it because it's really still, or because we observe a stable pattern of relationship there? And they're completely different, you see, completely different. Because vortex look like a stable thing. Fire also look like a stable thing. And even our body look like a stable thing. But this so-called thing itself is just the shape, the form of a stable relationship. doesn't mean that it's really still. I hope what I said so far makes sense to you, my friend. And now let's discuss something a little bit psychological, I would say. Is that we all seeking for stability sometimes and sense of security. When we feel like, oh, there is no fixed nature of the existence, we can get panic. We can just fall into nihilism. Or nothing is still, nothing is not changed, and people can be really negative. And I want to say that it's absolutely not necessary. And I think when people think in that way, it's more like they maybe just go to the wrong path. Because when you think about it, if everything is absolutely fixed, then nothing can ever change. There is no such thing as free will. There is no such thing as freedom at all, because everything is fixed, and there is no transformation, there is no change. Then what is the point of life? Then what is the point of release my potential as this person or something like that? There's no point at all, because everything is fixed. There is no transformation. There is no such thing as freedom. I think in that kind of worldview, it's actually more negative. But however, when people they don't really think in this way, they could feel quite negative about understanding there is no fixed nature. Think about it. Think about it. When we burn the wood becomes fire, right? And also, when we plant a seed, they can grow into beautiful flowers or even giant tree. And we eat food, they become nutrition and nurture our body. All of these are the transformation of energy. They are beautiful. They are wonderful. They are not something, sad or like a curse. It was never like that. It's the beauty, it's the wonder of the existence, is this process of transformation. So there is nothing to feel sad about the essence of transformation or the essence of change, the essence of no fixed nature. It's not something to be sad about. Seriously, seriously. All right, now in this playlist of matter, the manifestation of matter, we already discussed the definition of matter, the definition of dark matter, and the categories of different relational structures or the categories of matter. And now we also discussed the transformation of matter. I've already covered a lot of important part about understanding the manifestation of matter. So I really hope, my friends, if you can just be patient, watch all these episodes that related to this topic. They are all important, and I know that to some friends it still might be challenging to transform their way of thinking from substance or entity-based thinking to be something else. But I mean, it's a long process, and as we said, there is no fixed nature, so everything is possible. Everyone is possible to transform their way of thinking from a certain way to have the freedom of way of thinking. And in the further episodes, we are going to review more mysteries and solve those mysteries in the relational non-duality. And I'm looking forward to hear what you think, and you can always comment to have discussion with me. And I apologize for a little bit delay for the updates. Just now it's such like beautiful summer times. I just can't wait to go camping outside, enjoy the nature. And I always suggest that we should have a balanced life, not just, intellectually. We should participate in life, communicate with your family, with your friend, with the one you love, and enjoy nature, to enjoy and experience the harmony. Thank you for your patience and understanding. I edited a short music video. Is kind of resonant with this topic we discussed today, and I hope you enjoy. You can always support me through Buy Me a Coffee. I'm looking forward to hear more from you, and thank you. See you again soon.
Beneath the stars within the the skies, a flow that never fades or dies, not bound by time nor fixed above. It sings through all the silent love. Within each breath a flame runs true, a pulse that carries me and you. Through shifting lives it calls our name, not to escape but join the flame. Eternal flow through all you see, not far, not near, just simply be. Through birth and change it shines so clear.